Is it weird or inappropriate to name my son Miguel if I'm not Hispanic or Latino? You have the right to do whatever you want, but consider that a racially associated name can affect how likely a person is to be asked in for a job interviews, or conversely cause him to be favored because someone thinks he is Hispanic and then accused of deception when it turns out he isn't. Your name choice sends a signal, and some people may not like that signal or the mismatch between the signal and reality. Unfortunately, your son may have to suffer the reactions from their assumptions. I wouldn't do it unless you think both racial discrimination and reverse discrimination are going to be non-issues by the time your son is an adult. I wouldn't do it. Some people are going to find it weird, some will likely find it offensive. Best case scenario, your son's life will be slightly more awkward than it otherwise would be. You've gotten a lot of advice here, but I'm going to throw this one in. You don't have to carry this name. Your son does. He will have to bear it every day of his life. He will hear it on the playground said by friends and by bullies. It will have to come out of his mouth to total strangers at Starbucks. He will carry it into job interviews, onto applications, onto forms, into his marriage if he gets married, into the rest of his life. The first thing you should ask yourself when choosing a name for your child is, am I giving him a name that is easy to carry or hard to carry? It doesn't matter if you will regret choosing that name, it's not your name. It matters if you will regret that you gave him that name. Figure that out. You're gonna be getting PC answers, but it'll be straightforward replying to you as a Latino. Yes, it's weird. Your wife thinks it's weird, which is good enough reason not to use it. As a Latina, I find your choice weird too, TBH. And y'all probably cause your kid unnecessary trouble since he will definitely be asked about it. Feels kind of like Hilaria Baldwin. Get a cat and name him Miguel. I see unending grief and misery if you name your kid this. Don't do it. Think about when he gets to be about 10-14, the kids he goes to school with are going to abuse the shit out of him. He's going to hate it, and in turn you. Source, 20-year teacher who has seen some dumb names and seen kids taking shit for it. It may or may not be weird, but why compel your wife to name your kid something she's not comfortable with? Do you want her to feel weird for the next 50 years every time she talks to him? Generally, when it comes to names that may be considered off in some way, I always default to just use that as their middle name. Like a John Miguel Jones type of deal. Now, if you end up calling this kid Michael as a first name, you can always just call them Miguel as a nickname. But please don't name them Michael Miguel Jones. There's certainly no ethical issue with it to me. However, the aesthetics are off, kinda like buying a 100-year-old farmhouse and decorating it ultra-modern. No one died from it. No one knows why it isn't done. It just seems awkward without cause. School children are merciless, and even if your son is fortunate to avoid that, he will be explaining himself his entire life to people who will either assume he's Hispanic and/or attempt to speak Spanish to him. Fun fact, here in Latin, many people name their kids with English names or some sort of Anglicism made up in the spot. Examples: Estevan as an equivalent to Stephen or Stephen John, usually spelled as Jehan Murray, and opposed to Mary my mother-in-law is a Murray lol. There's an artist in the US called Miguel, and he's not of Latin American or Spanish descent if I'm not mistaken. And people won't have any issues pronouncing that name anyways, so I would say go for it. My son's name is Miguel BTW, but we are Latin Americans living in Colombia. My friend is white Caucasian and has a last name that reads as Latin or Spanish. In her case, she feels it has affected her negatively as an insanely talented marketing and graphic designer. Sometimes racially motivated, but sometimes just annoying. She said she feels passed up for job offers as a freelance designer, and overlooked for promotions even among less senior peers at Nike and Adidas. Also said she hates repeatedly surprising employers when they meet in person. Like she's chosen by name, possibly for inclusion and diversity, but then they don't offer her the role. Also, at the DMV people, some will just start speaking Spanish to her, haha. I know you don't want to make a decision based on perceived racism, but you should be aware my friend is discouraged by it. Smart to watch for bad nicknames, just as much as be cautious in any reason for unequal treatment, especially in the wrong hands. As a Mexican, I find your choice awesome. Spaniards are named Miguel and are also white. Who can you use it for a middle name? You can call him Engelbert Humperdinck if you want to, it's your business. However, it's probably not a great idea to insist on a name your wife doesn't like. It's fine, better than Chet, Scooter, or something like that. Only in the US where you can't use anything other than what is ethnically prescribed to you. My cousin's name is Astrid, she's not Scandinavian. My name has Emil in it. I am not Spanish nor Latin American. My sister's name is Anne, she is not English. All of us are from Asia. I find it weird that names have implications in the largest multicultural country in the world.